The moment she stepped under the bright studio lights, Karoline Leavitt knew exactly where she was and what to expect. The applause felt scripted, the smiles forced, and Jimmy Kimmel's tone carried that unmistakable smugness she had anticipated. He welcomed her with a joke, calling her the youngest press secretary with the biggest Twitter fingers, prompting laughter from the audience. Karoline forced a grin, her expression unreadable but her eyes razor sharp. She crossed her legs, adjusted her mic, and leaned in slightly. She was ready for whatever this was going to be. Jimmy tried to keep it light, throwing another jab about politicians doing stand-up comedy better than politics, but Karoline didn't bite. Her voice was calm as she started speaking about the generational shift in political leadership. The crowd settled, listening. Then Jimmy cut in with a dismissive, "Oh come on, do you really believe that?" It wasn't just the words, it was the tone, laced with condescension. Karoline turned slightly toward him, not rattled, and answered, "If you'd rather talk over me than to me, I'm happy to wait." That line hit. There was a sudden hush. Jimmy laughed awkwardly, brushing it off, but something in the room had shifted. Karoline wasn't there to play the guest role quietly. She came prepared to hold her ground, and in the first few minutes, she had already shown she wouldn't let the platform be used to undermine her. This wasn't going to be a routine interview, it was something else entirely. As the conversation picked up pace, Karoline leaned into her argument about the media's growing bias, her tone steady, every word deliberate. Jimmy Kimmel, still wearing his signature smirk, interrupted with a sarcastic, "Wow, someone's been watching too much cable news." The audience chuckled, but Karoline didn't react. She paused for a breath, looked directly at him, and calmly replied, "Or maybe I'm just paying attention to what's actually happening." Her words landed with weight. Jimmy raised his eyebrows, feigning surprise, and countered with a dismissive quip about conspiracy talk. Karoline didn't let it slide. "If facts make you uncomfortable, maybe comedy's the safer place for you," she shot back, still composed, her voice unwavering. The room went quiet again, laughter fading into an uneasy silence. Jimmy, caught off guard, tried to regain momentum. He chuckled and leaned back in his chair, clearly stalling. Then he pivoted, asking her about a statement she made at a recent press briefing. But before she could finish her answer, he cut her off mid-sentence with, "That's cute, but let's be serious." That was it. Karoline leaned forward and said, with complete control, "I didn't come here to be mocked, I came here because your team invited me to have a conversation." There was no anger in her voice, only certainty. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Even Jimmy's expression faltered for a moment. The tension was undeniable, and everyone watching could feel it. This wasn't just banter anymore, it was a live, public standoff. Jimmy, now visibly uneasy, tried to switch gears with a theatrical flair. He pulled out a printed screenshot of one of Karoline's old tweets, holding it up dramatically as the camera zoomed in. "Let's talk about this little gem," he said, smirking. The audience laughed, expecting a takedown. Karoline looked at the tweet, then at Jimmy, her expression unreadable. "Is this your version of journalism?" she asked calmly. "Or just tonight's comedy prop?" The crowd's laughter died instantly. She wasn't playing along. Jimmy shifted in his seat, still trying to find the punchline. "You posted it," he said. "It's fair game." Karoline nodded. "Absolutely. But ambushing me with it isn't a discussion, it's a performance. And frankly, I didn't come here to audition." The temperature in the room dropped. Jimmy's smile faded, and the audience murmured, sensing the shift. He tried to laugh, muttering something about being sensitive, but Karoline cut through the noise. "This isn't about sensitivity. It's about respect. If you want to ask about my views, do it. But holding up tweets like it's a roast isn't a serious conversation." Her voice didn't waver. She wasn't shouting, but every word felt louder than anything Jimmy had said all night. The camera lingered on her face, confident, calm, unflinching. It was clear now she wasn't just challenging Jimmy's questions. She was challenging the very setup, the game, the trap. And for the first time, the host looked like the one caught flat-footed. Karoline sat back in her chair, her silence louder than any of the audience reactions that came before. Jimmy tried to regain control of the conversation with another sarcastic quip, something about people not being able to take a joke. Karoline didn't even blink. "If this is your idea of a joke," she said, "I'm not laughing." The crowd shifted again, unsure whether to clap or stay silent. Jimmy chuckled awkwardly and waved off the moment with a, "Come on, lighten up," but she was done. Without raising her voice or showing a flicker of anger, she reached for the mic clipped to her jacket and began unfastening it. The crew hesitated behind the cameras. Jimmy, realizing what she was doing, leaned in and said, "Are you really walking off?" She stood up, still composed, and replied, "I came here to talk, not to be turned into a punchline." The audience gasped. No music played. No commercial break buffered the moment. Karoline turned and walked off stage without looking back. Jimmy was left seated, stunned, trying to conjure a smile as he glanced toward the cameras. "Well, that happened," he mumbled, but the usual audience laughter didn't follow. There was nothing funny about it. The silence in the studio said everything. It wasn't a meltdown. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, controlled, and powerful. And as Karoline disappeared behind the curtain, the cameras kept rolling, but the show, at least that moment, was no longer his. Backstage, the energy was frantic. Producers scrambled with headsets, whispering sharply into microphones, trying to figure out how to manage the fallout. Karoline didn't wait for anyone, she walked straight through the hall without a word, her steps calm and firm. Meanwhile, on stage, Jimmy Kimmel returned from a rushed commercial break with a tight smile. "We had a technical issue," he joked, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. The audience gave a few polite laughs, unsure how to react. The tension still hung heavy. Social media didn't wait for explanations. Within minutes, clips of the walk-off flooded timelines. The phrase, "Karoline Leavitt walks off Kimmel," trended across platforms. People weren't just sharing it, they were debating it. Some praised her composure, others criticized the interview setup, but nearly everyone agreed. It was one of the most unexpected live TV moments in recent memory. Jimmy tried to laugh it off with a final joke about tough guests, but it didn't land. Backstage, Karoline's phone lit up with messages, journalists, allies, critics, all reacting in real time. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. The moment had already spoken for her. The interview that was supposed to be another late-night roast turned into something else entirely. By the end of the night, it wasn't Jimmy's jokes people were quoting. It was her silence, her stare, and her quiet exit that had the world talking.